Let's go over this again. 50 cars, 50 drivers. 3 classes, one champion each. Racing in a variety of race formats and locations. Braving the constantly changing conditions and competition. All for a shot at the fame and glory of being the champion. Welcome to HSR Motorsport GT3 series. Is it easy racing against these guys? I don't think so. Indecision can cause chaos on the racetrack, while confidence can result in perfection. Drivers will push each other to the limits and beyond, while the champion rises through the ranks to take the ultimate glory. Battles will be fought, won and lost, as drivers fight on tracks all across the globe. There will be fear, pain and loss. There will be courage, pride and triumph. Mistakes will be made, and their consequences could be dire. Precision and skill can only be noticed in the very best. This is racing. This is what we love and do. The question is, what will you do? Hello and welcome to the HSR Motorsport GT3 Season 4 Championship. Today you join us for round 1 here at Zandvoort. Season 3 was an absolutely incredible season. We've just come off the back of 2 weeks of break. Our drivers have had that time to either train, just chill, or just keep racing, which I suspect most of them have been doing. Now, while we've been away for a couple of weeks, there has been a lot going on within HSR, and yeah, I guess for those of you who haven't joined the Discord group, I'll do a quick summary. But before we do that, let's just have a little chat about Season 3. Season 3 was absolutely brilliant. We had four-way battles almost every single race. We also had some not so great moments, maybe with some drivers crashing out, some drivers punting each other off the track and similar things, but obviously that's not uncommon. But unfortunately we did see a pattern, which is quite funny. So yeah, I'm looking forward to another new season of racing here at HSR Motorsport. Now let's go through a little bit of the news. First of all, we've got 3 or 4 bits of good news and then 1 bit of bad news / sad news. So the first cool news, I guess, the good news, is that we are now officially a recommended community by the Motorsport UK esports website. Crazy! So basically, for those who don't know, Motorsport UK is essentially the FIA but in the UK, in the British world of motorsport, and on their esports website we come up as a recommended community. And what's crazy to me is that we are such a small community. We're only about 650 members at the moment, and yeah, we get this recognition, which is absolutely, it's insane. So yeah, I guess big round of applause for everyone that's part of this community, everyone that's contributed to it. Obviously some people have put a little more effort into it than others, but ultimately it is the community, it is all of us together that have managed this achievement. So huge thank you from myself, and I'm sure from Craig as well, team owner, and from everyone in the community. It's wow, it's a massive achievement to have gotten only 6 months after Craig founded this server. Now, the other cool bit of news is, as you could tell from the little startup graphics, we have rebranded not only our stream side of things, but also the other bits of the server. And you'll see some more of that later during the race. And it has been a lot of hard work. There have been a lot of hours spent by the media creation team, those guys and girls working behind the scenes to get all of this sorted. all of this was done within 2 weeks. It was non-stop. It was brutal. And even now, this afternoon, even just trying to set all this up, even just the small details and stuff, that also took about an hour to do. So huge pats on the back to everyone involved there. Again, I quite like it, so we'll have to see how it goes. Let us know what you guys think of it in the chat. Now, the other cool bit of news is that we now... Sorry, two more bits of good news. First one is that we now officially have our own esports team, which I think is pretty cool. They'll be competing in various championships and races, paid, unpaid, stuff like that. And on top of that, we also have a academy team, which is basically for the rookies, for the drivers who want to learn from the actual esports team. So they're essentially then a rookie team that I guess will be shadowing the main team and kind of have learning sessions, coaching sessions, etc., etc. So if you want to get involved in that, then do check out our Discord channel, our Discord group, sorry, and you'll find all the info you need on there. Now, the final bit of cool news is that we have started our own website as well, and of course that will have all sorts of cool info, all sorts of cool media tags, etc., etc. But that's still very much a work in progress. But once we get that sorted, I think it will be absolutely brilliant. Now, unfortunately, we do have a bit of sad news / bad news. Unfortunately, we are no longer partners with IFWL.net, the International Friendly Weekend League. Unfortunately, I don't know why, but we are no longer partners with them. They were the guys that helped us start the GT4 Championship and also helped us out in the GT3 Season 3 Championship. And it really has been an incredible couple weeks and months to spend with those guys over at IFWL. Obviously, you know, there's no hard feelings at all. I'm sure plenty of us from HSR will still be racing with those guys from IFWL, and I'm sure it will be reciprocated as well. It has definitely been an incredible time to grow both of our communities together, and yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how we can both grow, how both communities can grow in the meantime. So that covers our little news bulletin for the evening. Let's hit the action, shall we? Let's start with Mr. Hosko, who's currently set the fastest time on the leaderboard. Cool, and I believe that is everything set up now. Yeah, hopefully. So, at the moment, Mr. Hosko on the top, the 135.410. The conditions seem fairly good today. Sorry, let me rephrase that. Conditions seem optimal today. Track set at optimum. 24 degrees Celsius ambient temperature and 33 degrees actual trackside temperature, with very little wind, 2 kilometers an hour coming from the side. So that should make for some interesting viewing, I think. Especially as these drivers now, in ideal conditions, can then just push the car as hard as they want. They've got all the grip they need, and so on and so forth. Now, if this is your first time joining us, then as a kind of a little guide, a heads up, on the left-hand side of your screen, you've got that timetable, leaderboard, standings board, and if you look at the number right next to the car logo, that is their car number, obviously, but the backing of that, the background, is which class they are in. So we run 3 different classes. We run Pro, Pro-Am, and Am. So Pro is going to be the white squares, Pro-Am is going to be the grey squares, and Am are the red squares. So fairly simple, but it also just means I didn't have to keep repeating it. I will probably still be repeating it, just to help you guys and to help myself as well. So at the moment, obviously, Mr. Hosko, Roman Hosko, in that BMW at the moment going around the track, is in P1. He is in the Pro-Am class. Will Turner and Jordan and Jackson, P2 through P4, are all pros. Now, other things to look out for on your screen are obviously the track map and info right at the top of your screen. So the info is right at the top. We've got your time left of the session right at the top, the session name, and then of course the time of day. But that won't really be too much of an issue, really. Not something to watch out for too much, except for the session time, I think. And then on the right hand side of your screen, you've got the info right at the top, track info, then you've got your track map below that, and then below that is the name of the driver we are currently following, their car number and their position on the leaderboard at the moment. So yes, a little shaken up on the leaderboard at the moment, as drivers are of course still getting used to the track, still acclimatizing to the conditions. And at the moment we have 26 drivers in the lobby, and it's already quite full compared to our last race over at the Nordschleife at the Nürburgring in Germany for the season finale of season 3. It's a lot more. We only had about 18 drivers there, and it was quiet in terms of the amount of drivers that were on there, but in the overall grand scheme of things, it was still brilliant. We had tons of action. It was really something incredible to watch. Now, of course, Hosco is still on top, and during the season we will of course have some drivers joining late, but I think we are pretty much full. We only have one slot left in the AM class. We have completely booked out our 50 driver limits, so I think last season our maximum amount of drivers that came in was 41, so we'll have to see whether we can improve now. Oh my goodness, there's a collision already. Two BMWs coming together. That green BMW looks like Verbru, I'm not going to lie, just by his livery. Now, of course, some other drivers to watch out for is going to be Wraith, who is currently still in pits. Let's find someone who's currently doing a lap. Mr. Jackson, looking very colourful indeed, and he was last season's champion. Oh, sorry. Correction. He was one of our champions. I'm having a brain fog at the moment, sorry. But before we start deliberating on who are our champions... Oh, and he's just gone in. 1 second, ladies and gents. Let's just get someone who's actually going out for laps. There we go, Mr. Topinka. Let's keep him on. Let's get a helicam on so we can follow him from the skies, because it is time for an interview. Whoa, I know. It is going to be interesting. So, let us take a moment to just sort this out. Technical issues, ladies and gents. Apologies. We are having some slight technical issues, but we are working on it. There we go, that should make it slightly better. Now if we do this, and we do that, I do appreciate your patience. It is giving me issues. Okay, so... Apologies once again, ladies and gents. This will take only a moment. There we go. We have done it. Mickey Taylor joins us in the commentary box. How are you, sir?
I'm very well, thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Apologies for the delay. There was some slight technical issues, but we got round it in the end.
That's okay. It's the least I could do. Even if I'm unable to attend tonight, at least I can come and join you guys and quick chat with you guys.
Perfect. So, we'll start off with just like a fun question, or a couple fun questions. You've said your favourite track is Bathurst. What makes it your favourite?
Because it's so challenging and difficult. And the racing is very unpredictable.
Absolutely.
So for drivers like myself who can't necessarily compete at the top, can compete at Bathurst. So it's a track where I'm very consistent. So I like to pick up the pieces.
Yeah, yeah.
And
I mean, to be honest, usually when we all load into Bathurst, it's usually in the dark and 4 times multiplier, and rain is not there yet, but it's on everyone's minds. What has Craig done this time? So I'm sure when that happens, you'll be ready to go.
Indeed, but I have a round there next week with another racing club, so I have an opportunity around there next week to prove myself.
Ah, brilliant. Yeah, they'll have to keep us up to date in the server.
Indeed.
Cool. And another fun question: what is the inspiration behind your livery from last season?
Well, this one, my last season's livery or this season?
Yeah, last season's livery. Yeah.
Oh, inspiration. Spiders, tarantulas.
Do you love them?
Yeah, I like the colours. The colours on them are just amazing. So I came up with this bright idea of sticking one on top of my car.
It took me a while to figure out what it was, and then when I saw it, I was like, "Whoa! I probably shouldn't be looking too closely there."
Exactly. It's supposed to be really intimidating, to intimidate other drivers, and I thought if someone could hand paint a tarantula on the car, which I think was a little bit too extravagant, ended up being a sticker in the end, but
I mean, it definitely intimidated me as well. So I think your job was well done, indeed.
It did. If you look closely enough, it does have some interesting slogans on it.
Ah, yeah. I wish I could get like close-ups of every car, but unfortunately, we don't have enough time for that in practice.
No worries. I mean, you've got about 20 other drivers to be looking at the same time, so it's quite difficult.
Yeah, that's the thing. And if we actually manage to get a full lobby this season, hopefully at some point, that could be up to 50 drivers. So we've got tons to cover sometimes, especially season start. We've got loads to do. But of course, we do still have the usual kind of seasonal chaos when it comes to uploading the livery correctly. I'm seeing a couple black carbon fibre cars going round. So I don't think everyone got round to it today.
At first, awesome liveries was a bit of a headache for me, really. Struggled to how do I use this software? I want so many different files, but once you learn how to use it, it's connect with all the communities. It's really easy.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. So, diving into the racing side of things, last season was your first season of racing with us, and you finished P3 in the Pro-Am class, but you only managed 2 podiums. What do you think held you back from winning races and finishing more podiums, achieving more podiums?
It's just being able to avoid the incidents at the start of the race, so that you can display your consistency. Unfortunately, when you get caught out with things that happen during racing, because that's just racing and we all just have to take it on the chin and get on with it. It unfortunately does affect results, but you just try and do your best every time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's what Jackson was saying as well. Is he was slower in pace than Hooben and Manchip ahead in P2 and P3 last season, and he just let them fight, and all he did was just get on with his consistency, keep putting in those consistent laps, and hey, what do you know, he's won the championship.
It was really interesting at Watkins because he was just in front of me. And I think I had slightly better pace than him at Watkins, and unfortunately there was the incident, and I was right at the tail end of it, and I just got caught. Really just got caught in it, otherwise it would have been probably a different result for me, but that's just one example.
Yeah. I mean, I know from personal experience as well. Recently, you've had a couple tough races in the GT4 Championship, and it's these small incidents that just end up racking up. It just goes into a snowball. So
they affect a lot of people. And some people think, oh, you know what? I'm just going to quit. But then that's not racing. You know? Right. Always finish the race, no matter how bad it is. I'll give you a very good example. Very good example. Last night I was racing 90 minutes of Northlifer. And with the other racing community to take part in, because I race in multiple communities. And it was I thought it was going to be wet at the start because we'd just done the wet practice, and I was getting all set, ready for the race, ready to quick drive. And this particular occasion, I wasn't actually paying attention to the actual weather. And it was dry. It was dry. And what did I have on my car? Wet tyres.
Oh my goodness.
So 20% of the race was a disaster, but for the remaining 80% of the race, I was actually either quicker or matching the pace of the lead car.
Yeah, I mean, I was also doing the same thing at Snetterton, to be honest, in GT4 Season 1. Basically, there was a guy who was doing pro pace, but he was in the Pro-Am class, and I hated this track. We had another Pro-Am that was faster than me. My championship rival was just absolutely sending it around the track. I was struggling to hold on to P4, and then first of all, one guy disconnected. Championship rival left the chat, unfortunately, due to a disconnection or something. He left, and then the lead car crashed out, and I ended up taking the race win, even when I was like, I hate this track. So, yeah, what you're saying is absolutely true. You just need to keep pushing, keep pulling, no matter what happens.
Because driving 2 laps on the dry track with wet tyres is completely possible. Completely possible. Very slightly, but it's possible.
And after that, it's kind of a bit more dodgy.
Yes.
Overheating tyres, etc., etc. Cool. And then, kind of based on that, what do you think are your goals and expectations for this season?
My goals and expectations for this season is to prove to myself that I can still do the same lap times with a different car. Hopefully compete for the podium again.
Yeah.
Depending on results. And hopefully win. Same aspiration as last season. I was hoping to contend for the win, really, because I was very close to I think it was Jackson on pace at the start of the season. I got shot here, but it's the same aspirations from last season, really, is to finish on the podium, possibly contest for the win. But we will see. You know, racing is racing. You know, at the end of the day.
Yeah, anything can happen. And I mean, it's always kind of a rhetorical question when I ask, what's your goal? Obviously the goal is to win, but yeah, then kind of expectations of what do you think will happen is kind of a different story, unfortunately. But
I like to put a show on for you guys, and I've always wanted to stream. Never done it. Got the hardware to do it, but never done it. So I think the remaining races where I can race. I'd like to stream from my seat and have my camera on for the remaining races, so if you want to link that into your stream for the remaining of the season, you can do.
That would be very helpful indeed, if you could send us the info over, obviously on the appropriate channels and HSR, and obviously if you want to just DM them to me as well, then I'm sure we'll have a look.
I'll sort all that out, and I'll just put the camera on just so you've got something to show your audience, and hopefully it'll help the club out. Help the team out, even when I can't contest, but at least I can try and put on a show and display some good driving for you.
Absolutely, and I mean, even just watching regular racing from this viewpoint is just absolutely incredible, because we can pretty much see from your seat as well, inside the cockpit, outside the cockpit, round the cockpit, outside the car, stuff like that. We can still see exactly what's going on. But obviously, it's different when you're actually, you're able to interact with your audience, talk them through what's going on, and stuff like that. So yeah, we'll definitely keep you in mind when that drops.
Maybe have some live comms as well. You never know. It's up to you.
Yeah, I mean, I've thought about it, but it's very tricky. So
it's very tricky, but let's try it. Let's do something a bit different, spice it up a little bit.
Yeah, that's true. But anyways, I think that's pretty much our time up. We've been chatting for, I think, 15-20 minutes now already. The next interview is in 6 minutes. So thanks for the chat, and we'll see you around.
See you around. Cheerio.
So that was Mr. Taylor, a McLaren driver who unfortunately has to back out of today's race, but he was here for practice just so he could do the interview for you guys. So big shout out to Mr. Taylor for putting in that extra effort just to be able to chat to us and kind of give us an on the ground, I guess, look at what's going on, you know, trackside, I guess, you know, trackside reporter style. So now it's time, well, after a summary of the leaderboard, to go into my favourite practice pastime. Yeah, this is practice pastime. Oh, I like the sound of that. Anyways, so leaderboard at the moment, while we've been chatting, Mr. Hosko straight up at the top again, our Pro-Am leader and overall leader, currently with a 135.8, so maybe slightly slower than he was during our first session before the server crashed. Just in case you're wondering what happened there, yes, I think they just did restart the server. So I do also apologise for the silence and that we suddenly broke into the interview again. Technical difficulties, but we are figuring it out. The first race of the season is always a bit tricky and always a bit buggy because we still need to figure out what works and what doesn't. So then, Mr. Topinka is our pro leader at the moment, currently with a 136.0, and then our AM leader is Mr. Warburton, running in P5 at the moment with a 136.6. Now, as you may have noticed, the cars we have followed so far do seem to be running some black, straight up black liveries, and I'm not sure whether that is on purpose. I assume it isn't, because usually when it looks that way it means there has been something going wrong with the liveries, maybe not displaying properly. But the weird thing is I can see this man's livery, whereas I can't see the others. So there is the obvious kind of start of season chaos when it comes to the liveries. But let's have a look at what we can. So obviously Mr. Hosko, Topinka, Jordan, they're all black. Mr. Turner now on a BMW. Yeah, BMW. Sorry, I almost said Audi for some other reason. So Mr. Turner last season did fairly well. He was P3 in the Pro Championship, so he's up there. He's getting podiums. And he was driving a McLaren last season, and in typical fashion had his light blue slash white slash black McLaren, and he's been running that same colour scheme livery for all his other HSR Motorsport races as well. So you always know when this man is behind you. Then Mr. Valentin, one of our newer joiners. I think this is his first season with us, looking fairly fresh in a red and black liveried McLaren. We'll have a look at that a little later, closer look, because at the moment we can't quite see it as well. Then we have Mr. Peters, also not quite livery uploaded correctly, which is slightly odd, but I did sync it in time, and I did make sure it synced all the way, so this is on the drivers, unfortunately. If you guys can hear me, you guys are watching the stream, then definitely do check it out. But of course, Mr. Jackson did not have any issues. He knows exactly how to upload a livery and how to make a livery that stands out. I do like this one. Of course, at the Nordschleife, he was running brand new livery. It was kind of a matte dark grey with some multicolour flames. It started out red at the front and ended up purple at the back, going through orange, yellow and blue. Or it might have been the other way around. Red at the back, blue at the front. I cannot remember exactly, but now he is running a stunning yellow and purple livery with a really lovely Union Jack on the side, also in the yellow colours. And he's once again gone for that kind of complex style that just looks like there's a lot going on with the car, but it doesn't seem too distracting. It just kind of all blends together to make one single colour, essentially. And then right at the front, you can see he's got his Discord username, and at the back, Pookie is his nickname. So Pookie Jackson currently ripping it up round the circuit in the Pro class. Car 323 Ferrari in P8. Then, of course, Mr. Dutton, who I really enjoyed his liveries last season. He was really putting in a lot of effort. He was running a Domino's themed livery for the last couple races, which I really enjoyed. He was the only Lexus driver in the championship, and he was absolutely ripping through the traffic in round 6 when we were at Misano. It was definitely a very entertaining race to watch, a very entertaining driver to watch as well, so he's another driver to keep an eye out for this season. Simmons, I don't think we saw much from him last season, but he is running a bright green livery, some gold rims. I do quite like that as well. It does look very professional, so I will give him that. It does look very nice indeed. Then in P11 is Warburton, who has failed to upload his livery correctly. Mr. Manship, also similar story, now in a McLaren rather than a Ferrari last season. Then Mr. Lewin in a orange and black Mercedes. Now, we haven't really seen too many Mercedes GT3s this season. Well, sorry, apologies, obviously we haven't. We haven't seen them much throughout the last couple seasons. We've maybe seen one driver, Davies, I think, who was running a purple Mercedes, and then right at the end of season 3, obviously had Terminov in a gold and black livery, which was very nice to look at, I have to admit. And this is also really nice. It's giving me Dusty Crop Hopper vibes from Planes, but it just needs a little more blue to it, I think. But otherwise, I love it. I absolutely love this livery. Now, I do believe it is that time of the race. 30 minutes left in the session. That means it is time for another interview. And this time we have a pro on the line. But in the meantime, let's have a look at some of the other liveries available on track. We are currently following Mr. Lewin in P14 in the AM class. Wraith makes a return this season. We didn't see him much last season, but he has returned and in a black and gold livery. He used to run HSR branded liveries all the time, so it's nice to see a little bit of variation. It looks like he's coming out soon, so we might see the front of that car yet. Probably later on during the race though. For the moment though, we'll have to leave him to go look at Mr. Ty in a BMW. He was one of our only Porsche drivers last season, one of 2 I believe. But this time he has decided to go for the BMW, which seems to be the popular choice this season. It used to be all Ferraris and McLarens, but now we see the BMW become popular all of a sudden. And as you can see, he's got his Union Jack flying in the window, number 1 and 420 on the car, and fake taxi printed on the side as well. So Ty is a fairly competitive driver in the AM class as well as the Pro-Am class now, so he's definitely got some pace to him. He's really quick when he wants to be and when he isn't crashing around, but he doesn't do that too often. However, it is time now that we finally get our interview underway. Mr. Kurt Peters joins me in the commentary box. Welcome. Can't quite hear you there, Mr. Peters.
Hello, hello.
There we go. Perfect. How are you, sir?
For the moment, I'm fine.
For the moment. We'll see how things go later. Oh dear, has it been that bad of a practice session?
Yeah,
Oh,
I chose the Beamer because we're going to compete in an endurance event.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm used to the Ferrari and I'm half a second off my pace. So
Yeah, they are quite different cars, aren't they? BMW's quite understeery, very heavy. Ferrari feels like the rear's going to snap out at any moment.
yeah, but I joined the Ferrari. When you turn, the car goes where you turn, and the BMW just goes
straight on.
Yeah.
Oh, mate. The funny thing is, you're probably the first driver I've heard complain. Well, no, sorry, not the first driver I've heard complain about it, but I've only heard one driver actually say that he's faster in the BMW than he is with the Ferrari, because he is usually a Ferrari driver. Mr. Hosko, last season he was running a Ferrari 296. This season he's running a BMW, and he was telling me, "Oh, this is so much better. You know, it doesn't feel like I'm about to slip and slide around." So I guess it just comes down to driving style, really.
Yeah, he said we had contact, and he said when he pushes the Ferrari, yeah, he can't handle it. Yeah, for me it's the other way around. So yeah, it's driving style, I think.
Yeah, and I guess it just comes down to whether you're comfortable ultimately with more oversteer or more understeer. Whether you're more comfortable having to fight with understeer and just pushing the car over the limit of understeer, or over the limit of oversteer, which, you know, it's safer obviously for the understeer because you can somewhat keep it on track. All you need to do is just brake and put the weight on the front wheels. But I can imagine, yeah, oversteer might be slightly harder to fix.
Yeah, but the understeer is going into the corner, and then sometimes with the Beamer you have snap oversteer coming out of the corner. So yeah, it's a little adjustment. So
yeah, it's a little tricky at times.
Yeah.
Oh, mate.
But we'll figure it out.
Yeah, you've got 8 rounds or so, plus a multi-race rounds as well to figure it out. So I'm sure you'll do just fine.
Yeah, no problem.
So obviously, last season was your first season of racing with HSR Motorsport. How did you find out about HSR?
I think it was via Facebook.
Aha.
I saw an announcement, and yeah, I hadn't had the race on Friday, so yeah, I thought let's give it a go, and yeah, it went really well.
It went well, didn't it?
But there's some fast and hard drivers in here, so yeah.
I mean, exactly that. How would you describe your season as a whole?
Well, for myself, I'm not the fastest driver out there, but I think I'm pretty consistent. And yeah, last season I think that was key.
Yeah. I mean, there's always a trade-off between pace and consistency. You need to have both. You can't just have pace and then, you know, you crash every second lap. But you can't also just have consistency, otherwise, you know, if you're consistently at the back of the pack, that's not good then as well, is it? So it's kind of a balance you need to have between both of them.
Yeah. I can drive on the limit, but yeah, it has consequences. So yeah, it's a decision you have to make. So keep up the pace, a good, consistent, very fast pace, but not on the limit.
Yeah. And you need to be able to find that limit very quickly if you need it.
Yeah.
Because every second, every millisecond counts in motorsport, obviously. So what are your goals and expectations for this season then?
Oh, first of all, get used to the Beamer. Yeah, I think. Just be consistent like last season, and. Yeah, I hope to be up there in the front, so yeah.
Yeah, I'm always a bit I always think, the goals question is a bit, you know, that's always quite rhetorical because obviously everyone's here to win. But it's always, you know, what you think will happen is going to be a different story, unfortunately, sometimes.
And luck sometimes also plays a small role into racing.
That mental kind of side of things, that mentality.
Yeah.
Because I mean, we had that with Jackson last season as well. I keep mentioning him for some other reason, but it might be because we had 2 interviews with him accidentally during the season. but basically, right at the start, he was saying he's anticipating top 5. You know, he's just going to try and get into the top 5 at the end of the season. just finished races top 5. Where does he finish? He finishes P1, and he wins races multiple times. He's got like 3 race wins. Almost every race was a podium as well. So it's always that mentality. I guess you kind of want to have high expectations. You want to be pushing yourself, but at the same time you don't want to be disappointed and disheartened.
No, because last season was okay. So yeah, you want to do even better. That's not possible. But I want to be consistent. Yeah, top finishes, great battles, and clean races. So yeah.
Absolutely.
That's always my aim, yeah.
I mean, I was just about to go into that because we have every one of our Pro Championship winners in this season. We've got Topinka back from Season 2, and Robetti was in Season 2 as well, but he won the Season 1 Championship. So obviously there's going to be a lot of competition between you three.
Yeah.
Do you think that kind of impacts your anticipations for this season?
Yeah, I don't know the guys, but what I've heard of, yeah, they're pretty fast. So Greg also is pretty fast. But because we had the race on Watkins Glen last week, so that was fun. I was battling him all the time. So yeah, but then he was in the Beamer. And now we switched back to the Macca, so yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to see the new seasons and swapping, changing up the cars definitely does have quite a big impact.
Yeah.
I mean, we had that.
It's okay.
Yeah, we had that during the GT4 season actually. Craig joined in an Alpine, one of very few Alpines on the grid, and he left the championship a couple rounds in just because the car was so slow. It was really painful.
It's depending on the tracks also, because it has no, it has no speed, In the corners he's okay, but on the straight,
Yeah, I mean, I'm driving the McLaren and I can feel the difference immediately. You've got the Ginetta right behind you coming into a braking zone. That thing almost rear ends you halfway through the corner. Same with a KTM actually. But then the moment you hit the straights, the moment you hit some straight line speed, the McLaren just leaves the cars behind.
Yeah. So it's same with the Beamer. Ferrari straight line speed not so good. Beamer is better. But the track Zandvoort doesn't really suit. No.
So speaking about Zandvoort, how confident are you racing around this track?
Man. With Ferrari I'm confident. With the Beamer I don't know, man. It's hard to get in the corners. You have to run low TC to get the exit out of the corner. Yeah. But it's hard because we had a snap oversteer, and then you lose all momentum.
Oh yeah, it sounds tricky. But what do you think in terms of race strategy is going to be the key to winning here?
Good quali.
Yeah.
Because it's so hard to overtake on this track.
And of course, because it's a double header, 2 30-minute sprints, that quali then counts for that as well. The drivers will be starting from where they qualified. So if you qualify badly, you're starting badly both races.
Twice.
Yeah. So it's kind of it's either a double whammy, or it turns out to be a blessing in disguise. Yeah. So I think usually race 1 of the season is always tricky. Even if it is just a 60 minutes or something, drivers aren't used to each other. They're not used to the car. They're going to be smashing up a couple fenders and a couple wheels. But having a double header, the first race is always even worse.
Yeah, because they drive more aggressive because it's a short stint. So I don't really like it, but it's what it is.
Yeah, we'll just have to keep pulling out consistency, as you were saying. Just consistent results, consistent quali, and then you should do quite well.
Yeah, let's hope for the best.
Indeed.
That's all we can do.
Yeah. Hope for the best. Just keep racing, keep pushing the limits when you can.
Yep.
And that's all you can do.
True.
So that's the end of our interview. You've got 15 minutes left for a couple more laps. Best of luck.
Thank you.
So that was Mr. Kurt Peters, our Season 3 Championship winner. And as you heard, we've got our previous championship winners in the same championship, all on the same grid as well. So this is going to be very interesting. Season 1 winner, Mr. Rebecci, for Omega Motorsport Italia. He was fairly rapid in Season 1. Now, in Season 1, we didn't have classes as such. It was all just one big leaderboard. But, it was still, he was definitely up there. He was the pro in that class. And then, of course, Season 2, we started broadcasting. We started putting in classes. And so Mr. Topenka had an absolutely massive run throughout the entire season. He was utterly dominating the field, running every race from pole, running out ahead every race. The only driver that really could pose a threat was Dixon, who in round 3 managed to get past at Barcelona into turn 2. Now I did see a similarly liveried car somewhere on the grid, so I am hoping he has come back to challenge Mr. Topenka again, because we have not seen anyone beat this. Well, we haven't seen anyone beat Topenka. Not that we're following him at the moment. We're following Wraith, but yeah, we haven't seen anyone beat him on fair and square ground yet. So we'll have to hope for the best. Maybe Mr. Peters and Rebecci can do something. Rebecci was P2 in Season 2. But yeah, it was a bit of a struggle for Rebecci. Now we are, of course, following Wraith, who is running an interesting black, white and yellow livery. Musically themed, primarily. But we can continue our livery walk, I guess. So we've done Ty. Pfeiffer is not out on track. Pennell. That was Mr. Pennell, who we saw earlier. Mr. Riley, who is one of our new GT3 drivers. He has been around for a little bit on the server racing GT4s, but he's finally decided to graduate to the big boy cars. And he's now racing, again, the popular choice for the season, the BMW. As we've heard, it is quite an interesting car to get used to compared to some of the other stuff our drivers are used to. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this pans out for all the drivers. As for the livery, simple, good colours. I like it. It could do with a little more complexity and colour though, I think. Then next is going to be Mac, who is driving the only Audi we've actually ever seen in an HSR Motorsport broadcast so far, other than the GT4s, obviously. The GT3 season, this is the only Audi we've ever seen as a GT3, and just listen to that engine. Right, well, unfortunately that was very poor timing by me, but that V10 engine just sounds absolutely incredible. It's yeah, it just sounds absolutely awesome the first time you get into the car. It is a very interesting car to try and learn though. It seems as though it kind of seems to take all the bad aspects of various cars in the game and puts them all into a single package, which then happens to be lethal in some hands, but usually not too much. But yeah, I do rate the livery though, really nice. It's light blue, sorry, darkish blue, mid blue. What do we call it? Sea blue, something like that. Very nice. It's got white and black splotches, so quite simple but very professional. It's got the McDonald's logo on the front of the car, making me hungry already. I haven't had dinner yet, so hopefully I don't look at that car too much, otherwise I'll end up being very hungry indeed towards the end. But it just means that it builds up an appetite, so fair enough. Then of course we do have Mr. Huben, one of our top 3 finishers in Season 3 for the AM class, running his typical livery, which I do quite enjoy. But as usual, it gets a bit monotonous after a while. But yeah, all in all, still quite rate this livery. Blue, black and orange, very professional. And yeah, he was the only Nissan GTR on the grid last season. But I'm seeing in the background there is another one ripping it around the track. So he will not be alone any longer. Well, let's just have a look at that livery by the BMW again. Oh, and he's in the sand. That does remind me of some liveries made by a certain Mr. Martin Mishka, who seems to be doing very professional liveries. That does look like one of his designs, very similar to what Craig Hewlett was running last season on his McLaren, except red, and with HSR branding all over it. This one, though, is McDonald's, but blue, white and black. So I do quite like it. Again, simple, but complex at the same time. Good colours, nothing clashing too much. And on the Audi, it looks absolutely spectacular. Then we have a new driver, Mr. Weigel, in a livery that brings back maybe not so fond memories of one of our Season 2 drivers who, if you've watched it, especially Barcelona, it was very interesting to watch. It was a pink Aston Martin. Again, the name escapes me now. Brain fog. It's been a rough week. I apologise. But it was a pink-purple Aston Martin who had a little bit of trouble with Foxy. But to be fair, that might be what got Foxy into his menace mode. Because ever since that race, to be fair, he has had incidents and tickets. So yeah, maybe that was the transfer. Maybe every time he touches someone in a aggressive way for a long time, maybe it transfers. But anyway, to the livery, that has nothing to do with Mr. Weigel. Sorry. Car number 666, one of our many Ford Mustangs this season. Again, very simple. White, blue racing... why did I say blue? Pink racing stripes and pink rims. Pink rims may be slightly too much for me, but it also seems slightly a darker shade, but it could be because there's a slight chameleon effect, or just due to the shading. Of course, you know, there's all the shadows that keep moving, etc., etc. But, you know, it's recognisable, very recognisable, which means next time I cut to him, I'll know exactly who this driver is, without even having to check the leaderboard. Then we have a familiar face down in P27, Mr. Rucroft, running his signature blue, yellow and... I'm sorry, the colours seem to be absent from my vocabulary tonight. Please bear with me. Red, blue and white. I've done it, yes. Red, blue and white liveried Aston Martin. He was running the McLaren last season, and he seemed to have kind of upgraded his livery. It got more and more complex as time went by, which is really good to see. He had his name right on the front, so I think we'll see some really good designs from this driver towards the end of this season, I think, which is really cool, because, you know, it means every race I'm anticipating a new livery. Every race I'm anticipating a new improvement to the livery. So definitely also quite, you know, where he is, there's quite a lot of action usually. Kind of that mid to low pack. That's usually where a lot of the action happens. So it'll be interesting to see how he adapts to the Aston Martin. In terms of rating the livery, I would say it's fairly high. It's again really simple, not too much going on, but very recognisable. Then we have an old face again, Mr. Broom, running a very unique livery, in fact, very eye-catching on the BMW, white and light blue. And it seems very similar to some of the liveries I've seen him run before on endurance races, and I am rating it. I do really like it. It is unique, very simple. There are almost no stickers on the car. The only stickers that are there are the ones generated by the game. So very minimalistic, but he's definitely nailed it. I think he's nailed that look. Again, not anything on the rims, just kept it pure black. And yeah, I do really like this. This is I would say, you know, maybe 9.8 out of 10 for Mr. Broom. Maybe a little more. There seems to be something that just needs to push that extra 0.2. You know, just that extra 0.2. Then we have an old face, Mr. Christoph, in unfortunately a familiar position. Last season he was struggling a lot. He was unfortunately one of our back markers almost the whole season through, but we continue to support him in his racing, and that is unfortunately very reminiscent of last season's performance as well. Some dodgy rejoins. Again, similar livery to what he's done before. I do like it, but again, yeah, very simple. And I mean, the colour scheme is alright. I'd say it's alright. Maybe 5 or 6 out of 10. Then we have one of our own Hondas, one of our very few Hondas out there, actually. Mr. Tyler, also a new face. Oh no, looks like one of 2 Hondas out on track at the moment. And I have to say, I do quite like it. Again, very simple, white, blue, yellow. And the fact that we're seeing a Honda is really quite nice. We only had one Honda last season, and unfortunately he didn't do too well, and I think was absent for most of the season. But I do quite like it. I'd say 7 to 8 out of 10. It's just not my taste, but still the colours remind me of a Kia, actually. You know, you've got the blue, you've got the yellow, especially the back end. No, sorry, it's that arch on the top of the car. You know, just you've got the A pillar, then the roof, and then the arch that goes down each side of the engine bay. It's kind of that yellow stripe over there, with the blue either side. I was like, yeah, that's the IKEA car. So looking very good indeed. Now let's just see. Have some of our drivers that are out there at the moment managed to fix their liveries? No, but we do have another familiar face and a familiar livery from last season, Mr. Morris, out in a red, white and black Ferrari. Now I have noticed, and I have remembered that we haven't had a track guide yet. So let's hop on with Mr. Morris. And let's go for a little track run, and we'll bring up some... why is it always this way? Whenever I start a track guide, someone seems to always pit or come into the pits. Right, so let's bring up a couple stats. Oh, it looks like Mr. Peters has just started. Who is number 8? 8 is going to be Mr. Valentine, going around the track. Sorry, that's Simmons. Valentine is down in P11. Right, so coming around the final corner then. Sorry, first corner. Get in early. You've got the camber. Run out to the curb. And the little kink to the left. Then into the right hand of Gerlachbocht. Maybe a slight tap to the brakes. And then just stay off the curb if you can. Again, use the camber. Get in early for turn 4. The long left hander of Hogenholzbocht. Then through the kink at turn 13. There's going to... Sorry, I've just skipped a whole couple of corners. Turn 5. Then 6. Then 7 is this right-hander into the interesting braking zone, the downward braking zone for turn 8, Schevelak. Then turn 9, Mastersbocht, cut the curb. Then run out wide for an interesting turn 10. Again, run out wide. You've got a lot of track there to abuse. Then turn 11, left-hander, Bocht 10 is what the corner name is. And then it's again just run out wide. This is quite an interesting track to try and learn with those massive corners. We've just got loads of space. Then try and keep it straight for the braking zone into the somewhat semi-chicane of turns 12 and 13. Hans-Ernst-Bocht and Hunzerich. Through the left-hander, run out on the curb. Then turn 14, our penultimate right-hander, Kumo. Again, you can abuse the curb a lot there. If you get on the power early, then you can have a brilliant run through the right-hander of turn 15 and out onto the straight. If you get your light right, then you'll be able to keep it flat through that right-hander. And of course, if you've got enough downforce on the car, because not all the cars have that downforce on them. As we heard, the BMW seems very understeery. Oh, and this is a livery we haven't had a look at, Mr. Valentine. Of course, we did notice him in the pits earlier, but we didn't actually get to see most of his livery. Red and black, YouTube themed, seems to be the shout for Mr. Valentine in the number 8 McLaren. And I do like it. Again, very simple, but the colours stand out, very recognisable. I would put this actually at 8 out of 10. It's usually when you get... It's very interesting. McLaren tends to kind of have the things going on. It's quite interesting in terms of the lights, with the colours that go in behind it. Just give us a moment. We will be back in a second. However, we are just going to get the HUD sorted out, so give us just a moment. And straight into qualifying we go. And that was, I do admit, I apologise, we didn't get through too many liveries, but it is time to have a look at our quali contenders, our quali session. At the moment, it is going to be 20 minutes of qualifying, split quali. So the first 10 minutes is for our Pro-Ams and our AMs, and then the last 10 minutes is for our Pros only. So that just means the track is slightly more freed up for the people that actually need it. Now, for the rest of the evening, after qualifying, we have two 30-minute sprints. So quali is very important because it decides where you start in both races. So the first driver that's going to be setting a lap time is going to be car number 999, which is Mr. Manchip in the McLaren. He was running a yellow Ferrari last season, very similar to Rucroft. He started off really simple, just plain yellow, probably even more simple than Mr. Rucroft. He was running plain yellow and then kind of added additions to the car to make the livery stand out a little more, and then had a nice livery towards the end. So it is a pity we can't see it right now, but I'm sure we'll get to see it later on in the season once we get all the livery chaos sorted out. So Manchip then, oh my goodness, and seems to be another server disconnect. Give us just a moment. We will be right back. And we come straight into qualifying. Seems there was a server restart. Apologies for that, it is out of my control, but we have just seen that green BMW of Mr. Riley Pennell hit the wall at turn 4. So an unfortunate start. He was the first man out on track, and then unfortunately obviously he's hit the wall and he cannot continue his qualifying without returning to the pits. Now the first driver that will come across the line to start qualifying will be Mr. Jean-Philippe Pfeiffer, who was our Season 2 champion, so it's nice to see him back again. Hopefully he will attend more races than he did last season. I think he showed up for one race and then unfortunately couldn't make the rest, so we'll have to see how this goes. Hopefully it'll all run smoothly and he will be able to attend every race and potentially then be competition for our existing AMs. So here we go, coming around the final couple corners then. Mr. Pfeiffer will be the first to set a qualifying lap, with 18 minutes left in qualifying, which for the AMs and Pro-Ams, as we've just said, means there will only be 8 minutes left of qualifying. So, coming through the first corner, then second and third. He's maintaining good speed. You can see he's not using all of that curb on the exit, but that might be so he can be over to the right-hand side for a little more speed. Good exit speed through there, maybe a slight hint of oversteer. Now, we do not have any telemetry on his laps because there has to be a lap set in order to compare his current lap time with the previous one. So unfortunately I can't give you updates on how he's doing as he is going around the circuit. I can only tell you what I'm seeing, which is what you guys are seeing. So carrying decent speed through there, over to the left hand side for that really long right hander of turn 10. Then it's the left hander of turn 11, similar, but you have to go the other direction, and it might be a slightly longer curb. Run out onto the exit, good. He has managed to keep the car within track limits. Then into the braking zone for the tricky right then left hander of turns 12 and 13, Hans and Bocht. I probably won't be using the corner names too much. Slightly onto the curb, but that's alright, that's why it's there. All the way over to the left hand side of the circuit. Didn't quite catch as much curb maybe as he could have through turn 14. Now through the final corner, the long right hander. What is the first lap time of the evening going to be? He comes across the line and is a 138.092. Fairly solid, I think, for the AM driver. Now we're going to get some laps pouring in as the other drivers come across the line. Janssen beats the first time provisional pole for Pro-Am, first time set 137.587. Second Pro-Am crosses the line, Mr. van Lagen down in P5 now and rapidly dropping. All the AMs are setting times faster than Lagen. Maybe he's had a rough lap time. Mack down in P4 in the Audi. Not disappointing. Hosko, despite his incredible times during practice, has unfortunately come last in the Pro-Am lap time so far. And Manship with a 136.1, absolutely sending it. So at the moment, Lewin and Manship are the drivers to watch for the AM class. Obviously there are still drivers to join, but Manship then P1 for his class, Lewin P2 for his class, and then 5 for P3. Obviously just initial lap times. And then for our Pro-Am class, it's Janssen, then Ty, then Mack. And Mack is quite a ways off in terms of positions. Now we can see Lewin in the Mercedes. He will be the first one to respond to Manship's time. Does he manage to take pole away from him? Unfortunately, he does seem to be fairly behind on his lap time at the moment. So he might need to take a break and then just reset, unless he can suddenly find half a second in the last couple corners. He is stuck behind Rucroft though, that is the issue for him, I think. Pushing the car through the right-hander. The final corner. How does he fare? Does Mr. Lewin improve on his time? No, he does not. In fact, he's 1.5 seconds off his time, which is not good. Meanwhile, Mr. Hosko takes pole for the Pro-Am class with a 135.7. So he's jumped straight back up to the top. The driver to then respond next is going to be Simmons, who's about halfway around the track now, coming into turn 9. And of our Mercedes drivers, he's currently P3. And Valentin has just exited the pits. That's the only reason we're not watching Valentin, because at the moment the Pro-Am standings is Hosko, Valentin, and then Simmons. So Simmons then is going to be the driver that needs to respond to that lap time from Hosko. Does he manage to improve on Valentin? That's already half a second he needs to improve. And then on Hosko he needs to improve a full second, which is a big ask, I think. However, you never know. So let's see. Where does Simmons come out in all of this? Through the penultimate right-hander, turn 14, catches nice curb through there, running it wide all the way out, keeps the steering turned in, manages to clip the apex of turn 15, keep it flat, out onto the straight. Where does this put him? Does he improve? No, he does not, off by half a second or so. So he needs to make up a second on that previous lap time if he wants to take pole position for the Pro-Am class. Now Fox is currently in P5 for his class in the Pro-Am class, and it is nice to see an interesting livery for the BMW, and he has spun out on the exit of turn 11. Oh my goodness, right into the path of a Mustang! Fox almost takes out the Mustang of Mr. Weigel, and yes, it was that pink and white livery that made him stand out so quickly. Oh my goodness, Foxy, you cannot be pulling out your Season 3 habits in round 1 already. I know it's the first race of the season, so everyone's going to be doing it anyway, but it is still not okay. Oh, and Mr. Max slightly onto the grass, over the curb, into the gravel, and across the track. Very aware. Good rejoin. And there is only a minute and a half of qualifying time remaining. Yes, it has gone that quickly. I'm looking at Hosko. He's currently improving on his time just on the exit of turn 11 now. He's going to be trying to cement his position as P1 driver for the Pro-Am class. He does, of course, have Valentin half a second off of his time, so it's not likely going to be a change for position. However, Simmons has suddenly come back and managed to improve his time. Simmons now up to P2 for his class. He's overtaken Valentin, so Simmons then manages to improve on his last lap. We were following Simmons earlier in that green Mercedes, so good to see him perform as well. Good to see him get those initial lap times out. Hosko, where does he come out? He does manage to improve by just over, or just under, sorry, a hundredth, and I think that is his opportunity over. That is his qualifying lap done. So then we have our top 3 for the Pro-Am class as Hosko, Valentin, then Simmons, Valentin. Only 0.1 seconds off of Hosko's time, so Valentin was pushing, but unfortunately I think that is his last opportunity. And then for the AM class, it is very close as well between Warburton and Pfeiffer for P2. There is a 0.7 second gap between Warburton and Manship for pole though. Manship currently P4 overall, pole for the AM class, then Warburton, then Pfeiffer. So some big names as usual. Now for the Pro-Am class, I am actually surprised. We don't really have too many of the big Pro-Am names as we've had back in the day. So to be honest, it shouldn't really be too much of a surprise that we have Hosko, Valentin and Simmons. Valentin still out there on a lap in his McLaren as the pros now start coming out. So this is pretty much the end of qualifying for the AMs and Pro-Ams. Now it's time for the pro drivers to come out. So this is Valentin's last attempt. He's only a 10th off of Hosko's time, coming through the final section now into the tricky right then left-hander of turn 12 and 13. Keeps it steady on the curb. He is very far off his ideal lap time, and that is a slow exit indeed. I do not think he's going for a attempt at pole, and Manship just cements his position as pole driver in the AM class as well, improving to within 3/10 of Hosko. So Warburton then was the slow Mercedes we saw earlier. He's not going to be responding to the time from Manship, and Pfeiffer has also just joined the pits. So our AM and Pro-Am drivers now peel into the pit boxes of their respective what do you call it? Their respective pit boxes? Their respective pit boxes of their respective pit boxes. Doesn't quite make sense. But anyways, we now have the pros to look at, and I'm sure the competition between these guys are going to be much, much closer. We have Mr. Liam Turner ripping it round in a BMW. He's going to be the first pro to set a lap time. We of course do still have a couple stray Pro-Ams and AMs going round just to finish their lap times. But now we will start looking at the pro lap times. Turner will be the first one to set a lap in his BMW. So coming through into the second sector now. A couple right-handers and a single left-hander to get through before he hits sector 3. He seems to be fairly on pace. He's hitting those apexes. He's running out wide on the exits. It's looking good. Around the right-hander, turn 10. Now into the left-hander of turn 11. Again, hitting that apex midway through, and then he can just ride it out to the outside of the corner. Steering clear of the curb at turn 13. 2 more corners to go before our first pro lap time is set, with 7 minutes left in qualifying. There's not going to be much time left to do anything if you make a mistake, and even if you don't make a mistake, it is still not very much time indeed to do anything. Across the line comes Turner with a 1:36.4. He is 7/10 off the best time, which is Hosco. And as we've said earlier, the times are still pretty much the same as they were before, as our Pro-Am and Am drivers are now stuck in those positions as their starting positions. Hosco, then Valentine, then Simmons for the Pro-Am class, then Manship, Warburton and Pfeiffer for the Am class. Now, looking at the pros, Mr. Topinka sets the fastest lap, 1:35.5. Jordan is only a 10th off. Then it's Dutton with a massive 6/10 off of that time. And the rest of the pros have still to set a lap time. Only Morris and Peters left. Morris now coming through turn 10-11 on the exit. You can see just ahead there is Turner, so Morris is right on the other side of the track. He was basically last driver out, just so he can have all that extra space. Again, the pros seem to be steering clear of the curb of turn 13, where we've seen some Pro-Ams and Ams try and clip it. So Morris then coming through the final right-hander of turn 15. Where does he end up on the leaderboard? P9, almost 8/10 of Topinka's time, so he seems to be struggling slightly, but it is his first lap time. It is usually the first initial lap time that is your slowest, and then you kind of build it up as you go by. Topinka seems to be improving on his time already, currently pro for his class. And then we do have some other drivers ready to go. Chard suddenly takes P2. Topinka improves his time, so Chard was only 300ths of Topinka's time, but now of course Topinka managed to improve it, and he's still in pole position. Jordan taking P3 for his class at the moment, but he has unfortunately invalidated his lap time, so unfortunately he won't be setting any faster lap times as it stands. The name to watch out for though is going to be Schubert, who is one of our season 3 drivers, so fairly new, but he did see plenty of action last season. He was right in the middle of it at Valencia and at other places. I think it was Misano as well. And he has changed his livery. Just a quick note, it does remind me a lot of Christoph's livery, but grey, yellow, grey, red and black now. Well, not black, that seems like a really dark purple or dark navy. He's currently 4/10 up on his time as he comes into sector 3 now, after turn 11. That one long left-hander, car number 12, the Ferrari. He was running a Ferrari last season as well, doing fairly well in the Pro-Am class, but now he seems to have graduated, I guess, to the Pro class, so he will have to justify his performance now. Coming through the final left-hander of the circuit. Now 2 more corners remaining, 3 minutes left in qualifying. Schubert sets yet another time. Coming through the final corners, slight bit of oversteer into turn 14. Now round the final corner. Where does Mr. Schubert come out in all of this? He only goes up 2 positions, still almost an entire second off of Topinka. Chard, wow, only 7 thousandths off of Topinka's time. That is incredible. That is a very close gap compared to what we saw in Season 2. Usually Topinka was ahead by way more than that. Now Jordan has invalidated his lap time yet again, which is disappointing to see. Dutton, however, seems to be coming across the line now and starting another new lap in one of our only Porsches, black and orange liveried. 9 out of 10, absolutely. Half a second off of Topinka now. Where does Dutton come out? Does he improve on his time? I'm not sure. Is he really someone to watch during qualifying? I'm not sure. However, Jackson is coming across the line now. He has improved on his time slightly. He does manage to make a position or two, now up to P11 overall. P7 for his class, but still 7 tenths off Topinka's time. And we only have a minute and a half remaining. There is still just enough time to make some improvements. Maybe time for 1, maybe 2 more laps, depending on where you are around the circuit. Topinka comes back out for his final attempt at a qualifying lap. Jordan still out on track, and he is improving actually. He's up almost 2 tenths on his time, coming through that right-hander and now into the penultimate left-hander of the circuit. You can see just from the bumper camera mounted on the front of the car just how high that BMW is compared to the other cars. Usually with Ferrari or a McLaren it might be right down on top of the tarmac. Through the penultimate couple corners now. Currently P3, but improving halfway through the circuit. Where does Jordan come out on the overall standings? Does he improve? Unfortunately not. He must have lost it in the last couple sectors. In fact, he's only 15 hundredths off of his best time. So it was minuscule there, but he's already made up 2 tenths in the first sector. Topinka, though, seems to be improving all the time. He's coming through the final section now. As qualifying officially ends, Topinka will be one of the first drivers to actually end qualifying. Topinka now through the final corner in one of the only Lamborghinis, I think the only Lamborghini on track at the moment. And across the line he improves it again. So Topinka then taking the overall pole position as well as class pole position now. Peter suddenly joins the chat. He just took P3 with a 135.5, so he's half a second off Topinka's time, but he has suddenly displaced Jordan from his P3 position. And as we heard from him earlier, qualifying position is very important here on a track where it is tricky to overtake. Now Peters is still out, which is surprising. He must be one of the last drivers to set a lap time. Is he aiming at P2? It seems he does. Does he manage to do it though? He's currently P3. Can he improve another position? Coming across the line now, one of the final laps of qualifying. He improves, but unfortunately does not manage to take P2, and that is the end of qualifying. We now switch to the final couple sections for this evening. The 2 half-hour races left. The most action likely. So let's see how this goes. And it is race time. Race 1 of round 1. 30 minutes of racing. We've got a full formation lap to talk through the drivers and their current positions. So obviously for the Pro Class, at the top, at the front of the grid, it's going to be Topinka, then Chard, then Peters, our front 3 drivers. Now unfortunately, yes, because they haven't uploaded their liveries, we can't quite see them as well. But for Pro-Am, we have Hosco, then Valentine. Correction on the pronunciation. Thanks for the shout out, Valentine, in the live chat. And then P3 is Simmons in that green Mercedes. And then for the AM class, we have Manship in that black McLaren taking pole position for AM class, and then Warburton and Pfeiffer complete P2 and P3 for the class. Now there are a couple cars we didn't get round to looking at a little further down the grid. Mr. Janssen, I believe, is a BMW driver. Also hasn't uploaded his livery, who is new to the series, I think. Conti is our other Nissan driver. Very nice livery as well. I do quite like those light colours. And then further back we have Malott in the Honda as well. One of 2 Hondas on the track. Oh, and looks there's another Lamborghini. So that is fortunate as well. Topinka not being the only one out there. That's going to be Stoppel in that blue and black Lamborghini now. But the race now starts with the formation lap. The formation lap getting underway now. And I do think we have a driver starting from the pits. And that is Rucroft in the Aston Martin. Can you believe it? He's a veteran of these GT3 races, but unfortunately seems to have it might have escaped his mind, or something might have just happened. To be honest, it's most likely the latter. He might have just, I don't know, it might have just slipped his mind, I think, as it happens to many of us, or there was a situation that required his immediate attention, and as a result starts from the pit lane. But that is not our concern. Our concern at the moment is going to be the top 3 drivers, Topinka, Chard and Peters, our top 3 pro drivers, then Hosco, Valentine and Simmons, our top 3 Pro-Am, and then Manship, Warburton and Pfeiffer, our top 3 AM drivers. So we'll be keeping an eye on all of them. But of course, race starts are always a bit chaotic, so we'll have to prep for that and see how it all goes. Hopefully everyone gets through turn 1 fine. The track is wide at some points, but also very narrow at others, so there's all sorts of things that could happen during lap 1. Coming through turn 11 of 15. Final couple corners before we hit the start straight and the start of race 1 of round 1 of the season for championship. And the lines start forming now. The double file is now in action. Single file was what these drivers were doing earlier, just driving all in one line, but now they have to keep in their grid positions as they come across the line to start the race. The final corner now, all the drivers forming up to start the first race of the season. 31 drivers all on track at the moment, 1 starting from the pit lane, 2 starting from the pit lane, making it 30 drivers out on grid.
Green light
And the green flag waves at Zandvoort. Looks like a poor start for the McLaren of Mr. Chard. Right down there in P2. The BMW of Peters is having a look towards the inside. There's Valentine also having a look down the inside of a driver further behind. That's going to be Jordan. Oh no, and there's a slow McLaren there. That's going to be Chard falling down the order. Another BMW racing up the inside. There's one of the Porsches in the background going off. That's going to be Dutton off at turn 3 already. We can't see him now. There seems to be a little bit of chaos down at the back. Hosco now looking for a move on a driver ahead. The leaderboards go a bit dodgy after a while. So Hosco now, under attack from Turner in that light BMW. And looks like everyone got through relatively fine, but there does seem to be something happening. Schubert stationary. There's Ty sitting across the side of the track. There's a Mercedes steaming from the engine bay. Who is that? That seems to be Mr. Warburton with his bonnet currently adding some extra airflow to the engine. And that is Pfeiffer also going slow. Car A12 now just ahead. That's going to be Dutton again, seeming to struggle with his car. There doesn't seem to be too much physical damage to his car, but he has seen a couple spin-outs from the start of the race. But now we settle into the race pace, and Topinka, as usual, now already 2.6 seconds ahead of the next driver, who is Valentine for the Pro-Am class. So at 2 race leaders out of the front, Peters is 0.3, 0.4 seconds off of Valentine. So Peters, obviously, as we were saying earlier, he needs that consistency, that pace to just keep putting in laps, even if it is behind Valentine. Oh, Valentine's gone slightly into the grass down turn 4. That's Jordan also having a look down the inside. We've got 2 black BMWs. They are very, very similar, so I do apologise if we get them confused. Now through turn 5, then 6, then 7, into the braking zone for turn 8, which is that long right-hander into the downward braking. And that is Jordan in the background going slightly sideways, and now that gap has opened up slightly between Jordan and Peters, but Valentine is slightly slower than Peters through that right-hander of turn 9. Now into turn 10, Peters is catching up, his 0.2 seconds. He does seem to have a look down the inside of turn 11. There is a lot of space to do it, but he was too far back to do anything about it. There's a stationary car, car 11, currently dropping down the grid. Who is that? That is Weigel in the Mustang. Malot's making a move on Wraith just behind. Malot down the inside of Wraith into turn 11, and that is going to be a BMW also again across the track. That is Brum spun out, as well as Riley dropping positions. So all sorts of things happening down at the bottom of the grid. 2 BMWs, Riley around the outside into turn 12, and oh my goodness, there's contact between the two, and Brum has spun himself out by trying to take out Riley, and Pennell has just managed to keep it on track, and that is unfortunately then Pennell and Brum both unfortunately not quite getting there. Hosco seems to be moving up the grid. He's overtaken Chard. Now it's going to be Peters trying to get around the outside of that red McLaren, the outside of Valentine, but unfortunately he can't get it. He's got the cutback though, coming through turn 5. Does he get it done though? This is the high-speed section. As we've heard, the BMW excels through the high-speed sections, and he has gotten past before they hit turn 7. So good pressure from Peters, no contact. He just kept the pressure on and got the cutback on Valentine. That is going to be Peters back up into P2. Now he just has that really tough task of trying to hunt down Topinka for the race lead. Now further back down, Jordan has been dropping fairly rapidly. He was P3 in his class to start with. He's dropped 2 positions already. And he does have Turner just ahead in his sights, but also Manchip right behind him in the AM class trying to get involved, trying to get another one of the pros behind him, keep that pace up. Again, we just had that consistency / pace chat earlier. Of course, Valentine and Hosco now are also 0.3, 0.2 seconds. In fact, Hosco seems to be having a little run on the McLaren now. It's going to be slipstream for Hosco into turn 1. on the McLaren. He's having a look. There it is. Down the inside into turn 1. They're side by side, and it's Hosco that takes P3 away from Valentine and takes the race lead for the Pro-Am class. Beautiful move from Hosco. Very predictable, but all the same, very safe as well. Into the gravel, though. Into the grass is Hosco. Can Valentine come back? No, he can't. His exit is compromised as well, so there's no chance for him to retake the race lead for the Pro-Am class. Malott into the pits for some other reason, but there seems to be a fight going on for P25 between Tyler and Pfeiffer. Tyler, one of our newer drivers in the Honda, Pfeiffer in that blue Ferrari, as they come through turn 4. Now through the uphill section. 0.3 seconds separating these two drivers down at the bottom of the pack. Through the downward hill section, and there seems to be no difference between these two drivers. They are fighting so close. Huben just lost position. Weigel having a fight with Rucroft, it seems. Down at turn 11, there's Wraith in the background going off into the grass. Dutton also having a look there in the background, looking slightly wobbly. So Weigel just lost out to Rucroft. Let's see if we can have a little look at what's happened there. So Weigel into turn 10. He's gone wide. There's Rucroft down the inside, says, "Thank you very much, sir. I'll take that position." Weigel tries to come back, but he is ultimately then left without acceleration, and Wraith in the background having to take somewhat evasive action, but not too much, and he's surely going to be trying to make a position on these two drivers just ahead of him. And of course there was a car facing the wrong way, and there is the Lamborghini of Stoppel making a move on someone just ahead. That is Stoppel making a move on Pennell, and the Lambo has gotten past through turns 2 and 3. Good overtake from that metallic Lamborghini moving up the field. He did of course start very low down, so he has a massive recovery run ahead of him if he wants to score some decent points against his rivals. But the fight is still on, I believe, between these two. Pennell with some good speed through that uphill section, but the Lamborghini, I think, has managed to seal it for the time being, and through the corners has some speed, and that is Pennell sliding his car in the background, and he has hit the wall facing the wrong way. That is Pennell down at turn 10 facing the wrong way. Really unfortunate for this driver. He was doing so well and then has dropped all the way down the grid. That is heartbreaking for the driver of the green BMW. But further up now, we do have a battle between Van Lagen, Rucroft, Wraith and Dutton. Again, a four-way battle already. We've got Dutton in the Porsche in the background there, right at the back of the queue. Wraith in the Ferrari. Van Lagen in that Mustang. Wraith has gone slightly wide. Dutton now down the inside. Into turn 1. Is he passed? Looks like it. And Wraith trying to go around the outside. Dutton doing the overtaking. And that is Dutton then up into P18. Good move from that driver. He just put the pressure on and just waited for Wraith's mistake. Wraith having a look down the inside. Oh my goodness, this is getting tight now. Through the first section, the Mustang has a little bit of a run. Van Lagen on Rucroft. This is going to be very interesting. Van Lagen now, the Mustang, just waiting for an opportunity. Dutton, of course, was really good at slicing through the traffic, as we've seen in the past season. And that is both drivers ahead, going slightly wide. Now it's going to be Dutton. Oh my goodness, that's the Mustang out of the play. Oh my goodness, and Wraith almost takes out Dutton from behind as well. And that is, unfortunately, Van Lagen losing 3 positions, and Dutton gaining 2 positions. So Van Lagen and Rucroft both went wide. Now it's Wraith down the inside of Rucroft into turn 11. This is brilliant racing, constantly changing positions. A four-way battle that has somewhat developed into a proper separation, fortunately with satisfactory results as compared to what we've seen previously. We've usually had some sort of massive crash, but it seems as though we've gotten through relatively unscathed now. So that is then Dutton up 3 positions, Wraith up 2 positions, Van Lagen down 2 positions, and Rookroft down a position. So those drivers that were ahead previously both went wide through turn 7 and 8, and that just allowed Dutton to get past first, and of course being out of shape, it meant that the other drivers could come through as well. Wraith taking advantage of that situation. So good racing already, and there's Pennell, we were covering earlier, just coming out of the pits now, joining up at the back of the grid. And Weigel seems to be dropping down the leaderboard, and that is Weigel at turn 1, facing the wrong direction. Please see the traffic, please see the traffic. Yes, he lets Ty through. Fortunately, no one else coming his direction. That is Weigel down in P25. Struggling this race by the looks of it, unfortunately. Now, other drivers to watch during this time is going to be Jordan trying to make a move on Turner. We've got a load of cars ahead. Turner in the light BMW, Jordan in the black BMW behind. Let's see what it looks like from Jordan's POV. He's been very close to the back of that BMW ahead. He's been within 0.3 seconds. The question is, can he be that close on the exit of turn 15, or just put on enough pressure to force Turner into a mistake? I don't think that will happen though. Turner is a relatively cool-minded driver, so he is not going to take any kind of rubbish. Manchip and Morris just traded a position. We might be able to have a look at what happened there soon. Jordan on Turner though. Is this a possibility? I think Jordan is lifting slightly through that right-hander of turn 9. Now to 10. Slightly narrower line. A bit of oversteer from the BMW number 22, but he's down the inside of turn 11. That is Turner going wide at turn 11, and he's just led Jordan straight through. We can see Turner slightly sideways on the exit, his rear getting slightly squirrely. Under braking, he just didn't get the car turned in, and as a result just went wide into turn 11. And that is then Jordan up into P4 for his class and P6 overall. Now obviously Manchip has made a position as well. We saw Manchip make a move earlier. Unfortunately we couldn't see the move itself. That then seems to be a fairly settled kind of standings grid at the moment. Chard 7/10 off Valentine. So then our race leaders for all 3 classes going from Pro, we've got Topinka, Peters, then Chard. Then for Pro-Am we've got Hosko, Valentine and Janssen, and then for the AM class we've got Manchip, Lewin and then Rookroft. So a little bit of a rejig. Let's have a look at the positions change. Topinka hasn't changed anything. Peters has gone up 1 position. Chard has gone down 3 positions, but that is ultimately mostly due to the Pro-Am drivers that have managed to overtake him. But then again, it is also for positions lost to pros. Then for the Pro-Ams, Hosko up 2 positions, Valentine 2 positions, Janssen up 8 positions. So brilliant racing from that BMW driver down in P11 now. He has a massive gap to make up to Valentine though, and he needs to go through about 7 drivers, 6 of which are going to be pro drivers. They will be putting up a massive fight. However, the battle between AM drivers lead is going to be a little closer. Manchip only losing 1 position. Lewin up 8 positions. Lewin in that orange Mercedes, doing very well in the first stage of the race. And then there's a massive gap down to Rookroft, up 13 positions from where he started. And there he is, just being overtaken by Janssen now. Van Lagen manages to overtake Rookroft down at turn 11. That move has been coming for a while. We saw them fighting a little bit in that 4-way battle, and Rookroft almost into the rear of Van Lagen, maybe slightly later braking. And that is Rucroft then into the gravel at turn 13. Now, does he come under attack from Huben, though? This is interesting because Huben is that Nissan just behind. So this could be the battle for the final podium position, P3. Huben with a fairly decent start, 2 positions gained. Not as much as Rucroft, though. Rucroft gained 13 positions, and we are about halfway into the race now. Just over halfway into the race. And Huben is currently 1.5 seconds off Rucroft. Let's see whether he manages to close that gap. Stoppel in P22, one of our Pro-Am drivers who unfortunately did not manage to qualify as well as he should have. Obviously trying to march his way through the grid. Just under a second off Tyler ahead, but that gap has just increased. So this might be our opportunity to have a look at some race replays, just as kind of something to keep in mind. Valentine is half a second off Hosko. Hosko is half a second off Peters, and Peters in P2 for the Pro Class is 10 seconds behind Topinka, who, of course, as usual, manages to just build a massive lead to the rest of the grid. So we do have our contact list up. Our most recent one was car 666, which was Weigel with car 10. Let's have a quick look at what happened here. So down into turn 1, Weigel there. Oh my goodness. And that was Pfeiffer coming down into turn 1. Can't get the car stopped in time. Wipes out Mr. Weigel, who is down in P25 at the moment in that white and purple Mustang. Then we have some contact between car 14 and 999, which is going to be Manship and a Pro Morris just ahead. Let's see what happened here. So there's Jackson just ahead. Morris trying to move down the inside into turn 11. Just a little bit of wheel banging, a little bit of door banging. And they do manage to remake their love. And they are fine now. So Valentine's still half a second off of Hosko. There's just been a position change between Jordan and Jackson, though. Maybe a potential for a fight into turn 13. I don't think so. Let's have a quick look at what happened there. Potentially, if nothing occurs through the exit of turn 13, that Ferrari is of course going to be vulnerable to the BMW's straight line speed. Jordan maybe looking at making a move on Jackson as they approach the end of the straight. He's going to have a little bit of the slipstream. He does seem to have a better exit. Down to turn 1, he does have some speed on him, showing the outside. Does he have enough grip though? I don't think so. As we heard, that Ferrari has plenty of mid-corner grip. Now, let's see if we can go back and have a look at their exchange a little bit earlier. So 60 seconds ago, this was Jordan just being overtaken by Jackson. Unfortunately, we didn't manage to catch that on camera. We only saw what happened afterwards. At the moment, there is half a second of separation between the two, so it seems like Jackson is trying to move up the field. He is trying to make some moves. Now Pfeiffer down in P22 is having a battle. Stop. Oh my goodness, that's Pennell facing the wrong way, taking out Van Lagen and Pfeiffer. There is Christoph in the background. Oh my goodness. And of course the Lambo of what was it? The Lambo also got caught up. Let's have a look at what happened to Pennell there in the last couple seconds. Oh my goodness. So Pennell facing the wrong direction there. Lambo comes in, swerves Ferrari, then the Mustang. So that is 3 cars wiped out in a matter of seconds. Wow. Now that was dramatic. Pennell, unfortunately, having a nightmare of a race. He is now stuck in the pits, and I'm not sure whether he will want to come out now. And we do see the BMW of Brum also in the background there. Ty is unfortunately our lowest placing Pro-Am driver at the moment. Down in P29, also had a rough race right at the start. We saw something between him and another driver. Now this is an interesting 3-way battle for P7. Jackson in the Ferrari ahead, Jordan in the BMW, and then Morris in the red Ferrari ahead. And there's a slight bit of speed on that BMW. Jordan with a little bit of a move potentially. Both going slightly wide through turn 8, then now into turn 9. It's going to be interesting because Morris is now caught up to the back of that BMW. So in that little exchange through the fast corners, Jordan caught up slightly to the back of Jackson, but unfortunately they both lost it coming through turn 8, going slightly wide, and that allowed Morris even closer. Oh my goodness, and there's a car off in the background. Who is that? That is Manchip hitting the wall. How bad is the damage? Not too significant, it seems. Maybe some scrapes down the left side of the car, but we need to snap straight back to the Jordan and Jackson and Morris fight now developing. Morris with some good mid-corner speed. He might have a little bit of slipstream out onto the straight. Let's have a look at Jordan's POV looking backwards. So down into turn 1. Morris maybe having a look. Under braking though, catching up to the rear of that BMW. Meanwhile, Jackson has managed to put about a second between himself and Jordan. Now Jordan has something to think about with Morris right behind him. Really close between these two. Jordan almost brake checking essentially that red Ferrari of Morris just behind. But now there seems to be a little bit of a gap developing between them. 0.6 seconds between Morris and Jordan. But we've seen how quickly Jordan manages to lose that gap, unfortunately. And he is still within a second of Jackson ahead. So these are 3 pro drivers all fighting for P5 in their class. Turner holding P4 and then Chard P3. Meanwhile, Topinka is continuing to run away right out ahead. Dutton trying to make progress through the field of Pro-Ams. He's right in the middle there in P15. Trying to make a move on Fox potentially now. 0.2 seconds between them. Dutton right up to the back of that BMW. There's a Ferrari just ahead. A back marker and Christoph gets in the way. Dutton punting Christoph off the track at turn 10. And it's not the first time, unfortunately, that Christoph has managed to get in the way of some big battles. There is, however, another interesting thing happening between Hosko and Valentine. Valentine managed to catch up to within 0.2 seconds of Hosko for the Pro-Am race lead, and that gap has just suddenly opened up again. It must have been a little bit of oversteer maybe into or out of turn 1. So this then is Hosko 0.5 seconds, half a second off of Peters ahead. So third overall is Hosko. Peters P2 overall and for his class. Hosko P1 for his class. Now this is very interesting because Topinka and Hosko regularly train together, and just the other day Hosko was sending me some screenshots of him putting Topinka under pressure. Could there be potentially a chance to close the gap from 13 seconds between Peters and Topinka? I don't personally think so, as Weigel crosses the screen right at the front there, right in the foreground. Valentine now right up on the back of that BMW. 0.3 seconds between them. Stoppel down in P23, about to make a move on Van Lagen potentially. 0.1 seconds between them. Pfeiffer has just lost out to Ty as well. A lot of stuff happening down there. I think we might be able to swap back just for a second to see what's happening between Stoppel in that Lamborghini and Van Lagen, obviously in that damaged Mustang just behind, and that is going to be a Mercedes trying to overtake a leader in the race, making the overtake. It was a blue flag maneuver. And the gaps have grown between Hosko and Valentine. Now Valentine 1.3 seconds off of Hosko, and Jordan now 0.9 seconds off of Jackson, and 1.1 seconds between himself and Morris. Now Dutton back again for another attempt, another move attempt on Foxy. Dutton in the Porsche, an unfortunate recipient slash victim of the race start chaos, trying to move up the grid. He has a long way to go before he can reach Morris though, so I'm not sure there is much he can do in the last 5 minutes of the race. Yes, we are already 5/6 of the way through our first race of the evening. 5 minutes remaining in the race. Dutton now 0.3 seconds between himself and Fox. The Porsche on the BMW. This was where they had a little tangle previously. This is where Christoph got in the way. Now we unfortunately have another Christoph incident, but we do have some contact between Wraith and Mack. So this is Mack in the Audi. Wraith will be in that yellow and black Ferrari. Let's see how this goes. Let's see what happened. So Wraith into the braking zone for turn 12. Oh my goodness, and just parks it on the apex. Slightly slow, and Wraith has nowhere to go except straight into the back of that Audi just ahead. Dutton still within 0.3 seconds, 0.2 seconds of Fox coming through turn 1. Not much has transpired between these two, but Dutton has managed to close that gap slightly. However, as a pro driver, he should be making improvements fairly rapidly. Fox has hit the grass into turn 4, the side by side, and that is Dutton with an easy overtake on Fox for P14 overall. But in the grand scheme of things, class-wise, he has not changed at all. And Mack now dropping down the field. Something's happened between himself and Huben. Let's see what happened here. Another race replay. Oh my goodness, loses it on the exit of the final corner. And just on the main straight there. That is very odd. That is a very interesting place to lose it, I have to admit. And then obviously just loses out to Huben. Goes around the outside. There's Fox just ahead. No, sorry, that's Ty. Ty in the BMW behind. And so, while all that has happened, Ty is of course a lap or so behind, but he did manage to get ahead of Mack, who is moving slowly. There's Christoph as well in the background, maybe going for an overtake, maybe trying to unlap himself as well. Now once again, Jordan, Peters and Morris. Oh my goodness, what happened to Jackson? Jackson has dropped a couple positions. Jackson was ahead of Jordan and Morris, but now both drivers have managed to overtake him, and he's 10 seconds behind Morris. So Jackson then, well, the moment, car 323, he's had a moment somewhere, spun, and yeah, that is then just him losing positions. And I just saw a car facing the wrong way, car 146, whether that is going to be Stoppel on the entry of turn 10, maybe catching a little bit too much curb through turn 8, and you can hear it's the final lap now. A minute left of racing, but essentially last lap for everyone. And at the moment the closest gap is between Simmons, Lewin and Jonsson. Half a second between all of them. But our race leader then 14 seconds ahead of P2. Peters seems to have dropped down as well from where he was before. Peters, car 77, had contact with car 146. Let's see if we can have a little look at this contact before we cut to Topinka. So here's the BMW. That's Peters. Oh my goodness, and Stoppel just doesn't see him at all on the exit. That is shocking. That was a very shocking occurrence there. Here's Topinka then in the meantime trying to cut through traffic right at the end. And he is our current race leader. Valentine now only 0.2 seconds between himself and Hosko for the Pro-Am race lead. So we'll cut to them as soon as Topinka crosses this finish line. And it has been a while. 2 seasons later, Topinka is back once again, right back where he's used to operating, right on the top step of the podium. The checkered flag waves at Zandvoort for the first time tonight, and Topinka wins race 1 of round 1 of the Season 4 Championship. Then just behind, it's going to be Hosko taking the checkered flag for the Pro-Ams, and he has done it also. A first race win for the man in that BMW, right alongside the red McLaren. And then finally, but definitely not least, is going to be Manchip, who last season lost out by a couple points. He finished P2 in the championship, but now he started off strong with a race win for race 1, round 1 of the Season 4 Championship. Manchip, our AM winner for round 1. And that then is the end of race 1. We have another half hour to go. Race 2 will be going live in just a second as the cars then reposition and our drivers prepare for the second race, where they will be starting in their qualifying position. So this is then either going to be a double whammy for everyone. Either they do good in both races, they do mid in both races, they suck at both races, or this is redemption time for a couple of those drivers that we might have seen struggling. So for example, Dutton or Stoppel, or even Ty, Pennell, some of those Pro-Am and Pro drivers, Schubert as well. So let's see how race 2 goes in just a moment. And we are back for the second race of round 1. It is time once again to start another race. Back where we started initially, we are back in those initial qualifying positions. Topinka starting at the front. Topinka, Chard, Peters, our top 3 for the Pro class. Hosko, Valentine and Simmons, our top 3 Pro-Am class. And then Manship, Warburton and Pfeiffer, our top 3 for the Am class as the drivers pair for the second race. Brilliant performance from Topinka as usual. Qualified pole, finished first. So, very dominant performance. Chard dropping slightly through the grid. Peters also as well. But Manship and Hosko both managed to stay very strong through the race. Even though they had some pressure from the drivers behind, they managed to keep it together and keep pushing all the way to the finish line. Hosko and Valentine finishing 0.2 seconds between each other, so it was close. But now it's time to hit the final race of tonight, the last half hour of action. And we've already seen our first 4-way battle of the season and a 3-way battle as well. So, yes, the action just continues to amp up. Every single race, every single season. So let's see, has anyone started from the pit lane for race 2? Yes, there is Miss Ty down in P16. Starting from the pit lane. Fortunately, the only driver. Last race, it was 2. So we've managed to half our fatality rate, which is good. But at the same time, you don't want to see that thing in the first place. So then Topinka leads the grid once again. Now, let's hope Dutton manages to keep it clean through the race start this time. He spun out right at the start. Dutton in the orange and black Porsche. We did see some good moves from him throughout the race. Of course, that was a recovery run for him, and you obviously don't want to be experiencing that. Schubert, currently in P12, was dropping fairly rapidly during the race. He was out at the back of the pack towards the end there, unfortunately. Same as Pfeiffer in another Ferrari, similar colour scheme. We saw that huge crash between Pennell and then the Ferrari of Schubert. Or was it Pfeiffer? I think it was Pfeiffer. That 3-way massive crash right at the end there. And then, of course, Weigel in the white and purple Mustang, struggling throughout that race, as well as Pennell just ahead, that green BMW. And then, of course, there was Ty, who is starting from the pit lane. It looks like another driver is starting from the pit lane. Chard also starting right there. Not sure what's happened to him, but seems like during the formation lap something has happened. So Chard now starting from the pit lane as well. Now I'm wondering, it's not often, I haven't really seen that before. I think it might be that he's hit a wall or something, and as a result, he's just starting from there to get the damages fixed. Which, I'm not sure whether it works on those damages during the formation lap, or whether he needs to wait until the formation lap is over, and then he can only start working on it. But anyways, it is now time to get our second race underway. We can see the gap left by Chard's absence. It is Topinka leading the field once again for race 2. And the green flag waves at Zandvoort a second time. And Jordan pulls out into the inside for a move on Peters at turn 1. And that is going to be a move by Jordan straight into the race lead. Ahead of Peters, sorry. And then Valentine just behind. Valentine, apologies. He's managed to get past Hosko. So Peters dropped, Hosko's dropped. Valentine going slightly wide through that first corner. Has anyone crashed out at the start of the race? There does seem to be a car stationary 9.9 and 4.20. That is going to be Huben, the AM driver, as well as Ty, who once again just can't seem to get a clean race start. So there has been some sort of altercation. However, there is still just half a second between Topinka and Jordan at the end almost of lap 1, which is very surprising considering how far ahead Topinka was at the end of lap 1 last race. Dutton now down in P6. He has managed to get a reasonable start this time, right up on the rear of Hosko. Hosko does not want to lose the position because Valentine is just ahead. Valentine taking the race lead away from him. Here's Dutton into turn 12. No move potential there, but he needs to watch out for Turner as well, who was also chasing down the podium finishers, or the podium racers. Further down, Morris is only 0.1 second off of Manchip. He wants to make a position fairly quickly. He'll have the slipstream. Manchip going slightly wide, same as Morris, but Morris less so, and he just gets the drive through turn 15, and that is Morris up into P9, but he still wants to make some positions on the drivers ahead. Now it's going to be 0.3 seconds between Turner and Dutton for P4 in the Pro class, P6 overall. Dutton unfortunately dropping back from Hosko slightly. All still within striking range though. Turner the closest, half a second now. Further down the field, we've got a huge three-way fight. This is now between Rucroft, Lewin and Wraith. Lewin in the Mercedes, Rucroft in the Aston Martin, Wraith in the Ferrari, trying to get past Lewin. He's right up on his rear bumper, right there, just waiting for an opportunity. Look at how close that is, coming through the hill and now into the downhill braking section. Lewin still 0.3 seconds on Rucroft, and that is very close indeed. Rucroft now going on the defensive. Wraith down the inside, maybe. He had a look back out. There's Max across the track in the gravel, facing not the direction of the track. Lewin now the run on Rucroft, maybe around the outside into turn 12. Rucroft is going very defensive into that right-hander. Is he passed by the time they hit the braking zone? Yes, he is. That's Lewin, a move around the outside. Beautiful performance there. Now it's Pfeiffer as well, ahead, slightly slow. Lewin also potentially having a look at that Ferrari ahead, right up on his rear bumper. And Rucroft now back into the fight. Wraith is going to be coming by at some point. There's Rucroft going slightly wide, and Wraith just going past around the outside on the exit of turn 15 onto the main straight. That means now Lewin is chasing Pfeiffer for the last podium position. There's Van Lagen just ahead of Pfeiffer as well. Plenty of action happening just ahead. Pfeiffer now close to the rear of Van Lagen in a different class. Wraith in the background also making up some ground on the Mercedes of Lewin. Close racing still at the end of lap 2. A little further up, it's 0.3 seconds between Morris and Manship, and we've just caught that in time. Morris making a move on Manship. Now Manship having to defend from Simmons as well. This is interclass racing. Morris the pro getting past Manship, an AM driver. Now it's going to be Simmons in the Pro-Am class trying to make a move. There it is, a little look down into turn 12, not there yet. And that is Manchip barely holding on to P9. Class-wise, doesn't really make a difference. But Simmons has got Fox right behind him, so he wants to put that AM driver between himself and Fox so that he has that extra bit of security. Simmons has a little bit of slipstream. Does he have enough speed to make an overtake into turn 1 though? Under braking? No, he's still 0.2, 0.3 seconds there. But back now down to Lewin, who has the slipstream on Van Lagen. There's Rucroft. Oh my goodness, and there's a Nissan going slightly wide. Van Lagen down the inside of the Nissan. That's going to be Conti losing ground. Now Conti also losing ground on Lewin. Lewin around the outside into turn 3. Down the inside into turn 3. Wraith just there, forcing his way down into the inside line for turn 4. And Lewin losing out 2 positions there. And Rucroft also trying to take advantage. So Lewin, in a sequence of corners, has lost 3 or more positions. Poor performance for the man in the Mercedes who was doing so well, but this is what you love to see. You just love to see tons of racing action. So that means Conti still maintains his position as P2 driver for the AM class, but Lewin has made it up into P3 for his class. So if he can chase down the drivers ahead, brilliant. But now we do need the top cam, Brum ahead, then Van Lagen, then Conti being overtaken by Wraith now. Wraith down the inside of turn 11. Now into turn 12, he's going to be around the outside for that right-hander, but under braking, he does lunge ahead. Conti's still there. Great racing from these two. Good awareness. Now, Chard tries to sneak in, the pro. There in the background is going to be Rucroft also having a little look. So Conti then also going wide. There's Chard taking advantage. Conti maybe losing out to Lewin as well. He's lost a lot of speed. And that is Christoph peeling off into the pits just ahead. Lewin looking down the inside into turn 1. Is there potential for a move here? Yes, there is. Late braking, and Rucroft takes advantage as well. Gets his nose in. Is he passed by the time they hit turn 2? He's round the outside for that. Into turn 3. He does back out, but Conti goes wide and allows a couple of drivers in. How does he rejoin? Is it going to be fairly safe? Yes, it is, fortunately. It could have been so much worse, but it was still all fairly good news. So Conti then losing plenty of positions. Now it's Lewin, then Rucroft, then Pfeiffer, all in the AM positions ahead. Weigel in P24, the next driver to potentially overtake Conti. Malott has had an alright start. He's doing fairly good. Wraith now battling with Chard, 2 Interclass drivers. Wraith in the Pro-Am class, and then it's going to be Chard in the Pro class. Chard being forced wide by Wraith. Now Wraith having a look down on Van Lagen for an actual race position class-wise. Down the inside into turn 12. That's a risky move. He gets his nose in. Does give Van Lagen the space he needs though. That is very fortunate. 10 minutes into the race already, and we are seeing plenty of racing action in the background there. You can see Schubert trying to make a move on that Aston Martin, but it's gone wide, and it's Jackson now that takes advantage down the inside into turn 15. Now back up to the action over here. All sorts of things going on. Wraith looking down the inside, maybe into turn 1, just at the top of his screen. Van Lagen going wide. Wraith taking advantage. Now down the inside into turn 2. Inside line for turn 3. It's not done yet. Van Lagen trying to hold on. But that is then Wraith up into... Oh, it was Wraith up a position. Almost wasn't. But yeah, Wraith then up into P14 overall. Lewin now under pressure from Chard just behind again. AM driver holding up a Pro driver. Chard just doesn't seem able to make any progress through this bunch. Plenty of drivers in lower classes, but he is currently being frustrated by that Mercedes. Lewin also looking to make a move at some point. 0.3 seconds. There's Chard having a look down the inside into 10-10. He's gone very shallow. Pfeiffer also having a look. Potentially 3 wide as they come into the left-hander. Chard now around the outside. Oh my goodness, and he's tapped himself out. And that is Lewin also falling into the gravel. There's Malott in the background going off. And that is Lewin losing a couple positions. Conti just ahead, also fighting with someone for position. Oh my goodness, a lot has just happened in the last couple seconds. Jackson and Pfeiffer now fighting for P15. Oh my goodness, and that is Jackson tapped out by Pfeiffer as well. Wow, a lot has happened in the last couple seconds. Pfeiffer now under pressure from Schubert. Further down, Weigel under pressure from Chard. There's Lewin making a move on Conti. Potentially looking down the inside. Nothing there. And Weigel slightly wide. This is Chard's opportunity. And yes, he's by the time they hit turn 3. But that does put Lewin in a good position. Weigel with a loss of momentum coming out of here. How does Lewin do? Lewin only 0.2 seconds. So this then is for P4 in the AM Class Championship. Rucroft now in P3. That was a fight that we saw between himself and Lewin just a bit earlier. And wow, that is really close from the Mercedes, who just about keeps it on track. Conti in the back also just keeping that pressure on, just waiting for an opportunity. Wow, a lot has happened in the last couple seconds. Malott losing out. Now it's Pennell trying to make a move on Malott next. Down the inside on the exit of turn 11. But now he is going to be on the outside, but he has lost it as well. Oh my goodness, and that is very close racing between Jackson and Malott down in P23. And that is Weigel going slow as well. So Weigel now losing loads of positions. He's dropping so fast I can't even see it. So yeah, Weigel then dropping 3 or 4 positions within the class as well. Now Pennell maybe having a little look, a little dart to the inside into turn 1. No, Weigel defending his position. Pennell going around the outside of turn 1. If he can get this done, that's a brilliant move. Yes, he can, but Weigel wipes out. That's the only reason he got that move done. But he did have some really good grip around the outside. Brilliant overtake for Pennell, the driver who earlier in the first race wiped out and was stuck in the pits for a really long time. Now he's looking for a gap on Malott coming through the uphill section. Of course, that BMW lacks slightly in the... No, sorry, it excels in the straight line speed section, but he doesn't quite have the right exit. Oh my goodness, and he's onto the gravel. Can he keep it out the wall? No, he can't! And he just keeps it out of Mack. But that is again Pennell losing out to a rookie error. Driver mistake, and that is Pennell now down a couple positions. So he's lost out huge. Pennell then, an unfortunate recipient of some rookie mistakes. And looks like Hosco managed to get back ahead of Valentine for the Pro-Am class lead. There's the familiar position. Hosco 0.4 seconds ahead of Valentine. So while we've been watching all that action down in the mid-pack to lower pack, they've swapped positions somewhere. Another interesting fight to keep an eye on is going to be Malott and Pfeiffer down in P22. .3 seconds between them. Lewin now right up on the back of Rucroft for, again, a fight for P2 in the AM Drivers' Championship. This is really close racing from Lewin, really good racing. It has been really entertaining to watch these guys in the lower section in the AM class just fight it out. There's Conti holding up Jackson in the background as well. The Nissan holding up the Ferrari. But seems like there are small gaps forming now. Schubert and Chard also 0.3 seconds between themselves, and Brum as well. Only 0.2 seconds. Let's have a look at this. Coming into turn 9. Schubert in the Ferrari. Oh my goodness, goes slightly wide, and there's Chard down the inside into turn 10. Brilliantly opportunistic move from Chard down the inside. Didn't seem to be much wrong with Schubert's line. It was just Chard coming in really quick, and that's the BMW of Brum going slightly sideways on the exit. He's lost it. Now it's Chard a line around the outside into turn 12. Can he get this move done? Under braking. They're side by side still. Brum holding that inside line. Chard giving him enough space. Brilliant racing between these guys for ultimately P14 overall. Chard, oh my goodness, he is pushing, he is pushing. And now Schubert is caught up right up to the back of that McLaren on the exit. How do these drivers fare? Schubert with a slightly inferior exit, drops a little bit. And it's still Broom, then Chard, then Schubert. Oh my goodness, and Broom does seem to be slightly sideways on the exit. Schubert looking for a gap down the inside into turn 3. There's no space there. He's going to need to wait for a better position. Broom goes wide into turn 4. Now it's Chard down the inside on the exit. And looks like he has gotten that move done. How does Broom respond though? Can he make a move down into the downhill braking section of turn 8? I'm not sure. I don't think so. And that then is Chard up 2 positions. Brilliant progress from the man in that black McLaren, who you might think has forgotten to upload his livery, but he is actually just the silent killer. The black liveried McLaren strikes once again. That is Broom now down to P15 and Chard up to P14. Now Schubert looks to make a similar move. He is flashing his headlights. He wants to get past. How close is Schubert to the rear of that BMW? The BMW goes wide. He's been put under pressure. Great reaction speed from Schubert, but they do make contact on the exit of turn 13. Schubert just wanted to make progress in the end. Now Jackson is caught up to the back of that little trio fighting for P15. So Broom then in the middle in the BMW. Schubert just ahead, and he's onto the grass, same as Jackson. Both drivers absolutely sending it through the exit of turn 15. Does Broom have a look down the inside? Yes, he does, or he's just trying to defend from Jackson. That was a move under braking though, and he has spun as well. That is Broom into the wall at turn 1 and straight into the traffic. Oh my goodness! 5-car pileup. Oh my goodness! I cannot believe what has just happened. Mayhem down at turn 2 and 3 at Zandvoort. There are cars not hauling their brakes. It is going crazy down there. Wow. So, multi-car pileup at the end there. And that has brought a load of racing now. Pennell down the inside of Lewin. Then Rucroft going down the inside as well. So these drivers that were doing so well earlier, that we were saying such great racing from, have now all been influenced by that huge crash down at turn 2. Wow. That has got to be one of the biggest crashes I've ever seen in HSR broadcast history. The only bigger one that I think I might have seen before is the chaos we saw Season 2, Round 4 at Zolder. This now is Lewin under threat from that car, Huben. Down the inside, under braking. Huben gets it stopped, and Lewin now really struggling to keep that car in a straight line and braking properly. The mayhem that went on through turn 2 was just absolutely incredible. That was shocking. That was absolutely horrendous. Oh my goodness, and Conzi slightly sideways through turn 15 as well. And then it's going to be Tyler in the Honda going past and Lewin ducking into the pits alongside Pfeiffer. Frustrating race for this driver who was making such good progress, who was fighting all the way and has unfortunately just lost out. Now back up to P7 Turner, and Morris just seems to have swapped a position. And now everything is so quiet. Let's see if we can have a look at what happened earlier. That huge collision. Let's see if we can have a look at it from a different angle. So no Lewin was involved. Let's have a look at race control. So we had car 85, that was Pfeiffer. We had Jackson and Broom involved. So I think it was Broom who was the unfortunate catalyst for that catastrophic crash. Let's have a look at this from a different angle. So just through there. Oh, it was a collision from the two. Smashes into the fencing, and then a lot happened there, which we cannot really see unless we hit another replay. So let's have a look at this. So Pfeiffer down the inside, a little tap between those two, and then just cuts off every single time just before we hit that huge collision, that huge 5-6-way crash. I can't even count how many cars were involved in that. Absolutely horrifying. Was it 27 and 10? So Rucroft is still out there racing. He's still P3 in his class, despite all those crashes happening just a bit earlier. Let's have a quick look. Is there a little more light that could be shed on the situation here? No, so we can only see it from his viewpoint. Oh my goodness. That is chaos incarnate. I cannot believe just the extent of the damage that occurred there. If we actually had cosmetic damage on there, the amount of debris laying around on the ground and the amount of debris flying around would have been absolutely enormous. Oh my goodness, and that's Weigel off in the background there. Huben close enough to take advantage. Tyler is still 4 seconds back. So Weigel then, unfortunately, loses out fairly heavily. But in all of this, Pennell, who we saw hit the barriers a little earlier, is now up into P2 for his class. So despite that crash, because of this huge, catastrophe at turn 2 between the majority of AM drivers, that means that Pennell is now in a reasonably good position. Because Rucroft, he's got damage as well. Huben, I'm not sure whether Huben had any do in that crash. He seems to be running undamaged, so Huben might be able to make a couple positions here if the cars ahead are damaged enough. And then Tyler was fairly clean throughout that whole exchange. So wow, the leaderboards have been upended and the chaos of round 1 has been unleashed to its full extent here at Zandvoort. Wow. And that was Conti just moving out the way for Valentine coming through. No, apologies, that was Stoppel getting out of the way for Valentine. Valentine now only 0.5 seconds behind Hosko. The gap between these two have stayed consistent throughout the entirety of the race, and even race 1 they were this close for most of it. So good consistency from both drivers. They are both pushing each other to the limit, and even between the races there was some in-game chat going on that was technically not allowed, but Hosko really feeling the pressure of Valentine just behind him. Slightly sideways for Valentine. That does seem to be his weakness, though. His exits seem to be slightly flawed, maybe a little squirrely. He seems to get some bout of oversteer throughout the corner that just halt his progress. He seems to drop back, then make up 0.3 seconds, then drop back, then make up 0.3 seconds. Just a frustrating sequence of events to Valentine. If it stays this way, then Hosko takes a second race win. Valentine takes a second podium. Unfortunately, the gap between Topinka and Jordan is not as massive as it was last race, but it is still 4 seconds. There is very little chance that it changes. Jordan, fortunately, still in P2, so he's had a relatively alright race so far. Let's have a look at the top 3, our podium finishers, our podium drivers from each class, and how they've done, and how they've improved their positions. Topinka stays in the same position, Jordan up 1 position, Peters down 1 position, Hosko and Valentine stay in their same positions, as well as Simmons. So the Pro-Am class has stayed fairly consistent. Manship down only 1 position, but he has stayed in the race lead. And then the AM class comes along. Pennell up 3 positions, Rucroft up 6 positions. So plenty of action in the AM class. And Huben has managed to catch up to the back of Roocroft. He was only 0.6 seconds behind a second ago. Now he gets the exit out of turn 13, and that is Huben taking the final podium position away from Roocroft. Slightly wide on the exit of turn 14 though. Is there a chance for slipstream for Roocroft on the main straight? No, there isn't, because Huben has had a brilliant exit out of there. So Huben now, with his superior car condition, can now make progress all the way up the field, potentially even taking P2. He is closing the gap to Pennell really quite quickly, so who knows, maybe we could still see a fight between those two. Another interesting fight though is going to be Fox and Wraith down in P10. This is for P4 in the Pro-Am class, but P11 overall. Wraith looking around the outside of turn 12, showing the outside. Both drivers keeping it calm. We've seen some good racing from Wraith a little earlier. Fox has managed to keep it relatively low profile in terms of collisions. Close racing between these two. Now the question is, how is Wraith's exit, and can he get some slipstream from that BMW ahead? The BMW is much larger than the Ferrari, I think, in terms of actual bulk. But no, that is Wraith still behind. Oh, and he came absolutely charging into turn 1. Slightly wide. That does mean his exit is going to be brilliant though into turns 2 and 3. This is really where the Ferrari comes into play for a little while before they hit the uphill section of turns 5, 6 and 7. And then again it jumps in. Chard now down in P13, also looking to get involved in this little fight. He's looking to gain positions overall, not even within his class. He has a massive gap. He needs to make up 5, 6 more positions on these other drivers in order to start fighting his own class. Wraith though feeling the pressure from Chard, even though it's not really related to much. The silent killer, that black McLaren, just waiting for an opportunity. We've seen how quickly Chard can just turn the tables around completely. He is a brilliant driver to watch when it comes to these quick overtakes, just waiting for the opportunity, just puts his opponent under pressure. So he's looking down the inside into turn 12, making Wraith think. Wraith doesn't fall for it. That Ferrari's still staying ahead. Now, of course, he still also wants to make a position on Fox. Fox maybe with a slightly inferior exit out of turn 13. They always look so close coming into turn 14 though. Now again, he's very close to the back of that BMW. But in a straight line, that BMW just pulls so much harder. Chard though, only 0.1 seconds. This is his opportunity. Now into turn 1. Chard down the inside. He's giving him plenty of space. And a dive to the apex for Chard. Oh my goodness. And Wraith is forced wide. Still side by side as they exit turn 2. But that is then ultimately Wraith slotting in behind Chard now. And the question is, will Wraith just be able to just keep up with Chard, as Chard then makes a move on Fox eventually? Because Fox, I think he is slightly slower than Wraith. So if Chard makes a move and Wraith is close enough, then he could potentially just slip through. He could potentially then take that P4 position away from Fox. But there is a gap forming between them, so for that to happen, it would need to happen fairly quickly as the last lap of the race approaches. So we'll have to keep an eye on this, and keep an eye on Topinka, who is making his way around the track for the final time. There's a little move from Chard, potentially having a look down the inside of the BMW. Still not quite there yet. How this turns out on the straights though is going to be interesting. Chard now right up on the back of that BMW just ahead. He's putting Fox under pressure. Fox being forced wide. All of them going slightly wide. Now down the inside, maybe having a look. Selling a dummy. Fox going defensive. And Chard braking, under braking. Unfortunately can't get it done. He goes up slightly onto the curb. and there is still nothing that can be done. Close racing still between these three drivers. Foxy barely managing to hold off, and that is Wraith going slightly sideways on the exit of turn 5, so that is probably his dream of getting past Fox now gone. As Topinka then finally comes across the finish line to assert his dominance once again. It is going to be Topinka taking the checkered flag for the second time today. Race 2 of round 1. Topinka wins once again in season 4, and Hosko, with a 6-7 second lead on Valentine, manages to take his second race win of the day as well. Great performance from this BMW driver. He's put in the effort and he's gotten the reward from it. He sowed and he reaped, and it's a similar story for Manchip, who takes the race win for the AM class as well. Now cutting straight back to Chard, Fox and Wraith. They are 0.1, 0.2 seconds between each other. That is Chard going slightly wide. Wraith just frustrated, I'm sure, and not being able to get past Fox when he could have. And that is going to be Fox barely making it across the line ahead of Chard. And then Wraith coming in to take the next position. And Chard finishing off the job with a run straight into the wall. And the last couple drivers to come across now. Lewin, frustrating race for him. We saw the chaos, the carnage of turn 2. Then it's going to be Weigel and Rucroft fighting to the final corner. Weigel maybe with a move down the inside. He's made Rucroft go wide. Is there potential for a little run on the straight? A final bit of racing action here at Zandvoort today. But unfortunately it seems as though Rucroft just pips him to the line. Incredible racing from everyone involved. And that is the end of our stream tonight, ladies and gents. Thank you so much for joining us. We have round 2 next at, I believe, I can't remember what the track is, but next race happens next week over here again, same channel, same time, 7 PM BST, whatever that is if you're watching from around the world. But join us next week for yet another action-packed race. We'll see you all next week. Good night.